Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Natalie's Witchy Wisdom and the Purple Broom Apothecary. Today I am coming to you to do just a very brief, and I do mean brief because I don't have a lot of time this morning and I apologize, reveal video on the Halloween Oracle. Now, when I first posted that I was going to do a review on this particular deck, a lot of people already had it, but I did have a few people that said that they would like to see a review. So I have just taken off the little plastic for the first time, and I really like the box. You can see that there's like embossed bats, cats, brooms, cauldrons, and jack-o'-lanterns. It's really kind of a neat box. It's very sturdy. I love the colorful artwork here, and I'm telling you, the light just does not do this justice, as is usually the case. It's got a preview of some of the cards on the back, which really look awesome. Now, of course, this is an oracle deck, so that will be different from a standard tarot deck, so it won't have a major and minor arcana. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the difference between the types of decks, tarot decks have the major and minor arcana cards, whereas oracle decks tend to be bigger, usually a little bit thicker in my experience, although not necessarily the case, and they don't have the different suits. Each card has its own meaning. Now, you can read them the same way that you read tarot decks, but in terms of like spreads and that sort of thing, but it's different, and you'll see what I mean. So it comes with this really neat book that's also embossed, which of course explains some of the meanings. Many of you know that I rarely go through and read this. I might go through and read a few of them if there's cards I have questions about or that I don't seem to see right away, or what have you. That's not usually the case, but sometimes I'll read through it too just to see what they've got. They've got some interesting little spreads in here, like this one, the Jack-o'-lantern Divination. It's kind of cute. So it's a nice little book, printed well. Spine looks good. Now, these are the cards. The cards themselves are a little thin compared to what I've seen. They're pretty flexible, which is great for shuffling, but sometimes not always great for durability. Now, they've got some fantastic illustrations on there. I like the fact that they're a little glossy, a little slick. This one says zombie, and underneath it says control. These are really neat. This one is kind of cool, and this is funny because this was actually the first card that pulled up. I pulled this one from the bottom, but this was the first one that showed up, and lately I've been trying to do a lot of work with my ancestors, and I love how they have the double helix going up with the tree of life. I think that's pretty cool. Hadn't thought about that. This is the love and legacy of our DNA. So kind of feeling the person that created this is a little bit of a science person too. They've got the apple for risk and reward, which is kind of cool. Apples always being important. Barmbrack. Sweetness is synergy. I'm assuming that barmbrack is the name for this bread that's in here. Not familiar with that term. But sweetness and synergy is kind of nice. Kind of gives me a homey feel. I like this one, Black Cat. I like how the eyes are in the background. That's for fortune meets opportunity. I kind of like that. Cauldron for synergy and healing. So that's interesting. They've got a couple on there. Dawn, the light after the darkness. I like that because owls are typically nocturnal, so I'm assuming that the owl is supposed to represent darkness, but as many of you know, it's one of my totems. We have Death. The eternal cycle begins here. That is a cool looking card, I have to say. I really like the imagery, especially the moth imagery, because as you know that I work with the Morrigan, and Babe is one of her aspects, and Babe is often associated with moths. So that's pretty cool. Forgiveness with the lotus blossom. This one is awesome. The Graveyard, unnecessary fear. I really like that. Unnecessary fear. You have to fear what we don't know or don't understand, and that includes death. This one's pretty cool too. Hearth. Happiness and home. Invisibility, leading to your authenticity. That's pretty cool. And I think it's interesting that they have the jack-o'-lantern for protection. If you're not familiar with the story of jack-o'-lanterns and where they came from, I may do a video on that later this week to talk about the history of jack-o'-lanterns and where they come from. They do originate from Ireland. There's a story behind them. It's kind of been Christianized, but jack-o'-lanterns are actually pre-Christian. But the story I was taught has kind of a Christian slant to it, but it's a really neat little story. And by the way, the first jack-o'-lanterns weren't pumpkins, they were turnips. Joy, Ooh, this one is awesome. Lady de los Muertos. Acceptance and equality. Interesting slant, especially with everything that's been going on in the media lately. The lamp for remembrance. We always leave the light burning for that which we long for. Midnight, the most magical hour of all. The mummy for change. Some of these cards are kind of sticking together. Night song. And then they have the owl for wise, seeing wise action. That's interesting. Scrying for intuition. Skeleton for strength. Skull of flowers, creating through the ashes. Now that's an interesting card. I might give, you know what? I might do a video later on this one, just an interpretation of this card, because that's a really loaded card. I kind of like that. Skull of light for illumination. Now this is interesting. Skull of stars for infinite possibilities. Two different skulls. Same skull, you can tell that it's the same artwork, but it's been altered, so it's got different. Like this one seems to have the circles and the light in the front, whereas this one has it to the background. Spider, community and web weaving. Very interesting take for all you people that don't like spiders. Stephanie. Now this one's cute. Trick or treat, mischief and play. I think a lot of times we don't get enough of that in our lives as adults. Now this one's very interesting, where all the things pause and begin again. The underworld. And the pomegranate, I believe, is related to the story of Persephone and her journey into the underworld to be with the Lord of the Underworld there, whose name for some reason at the moment is escaping me, although I can see the stupid Disney character. Hades. There we go, Hades. Don't know where in the heck that went. Vampire, emotional intelligence. Now that's an interesting image to choose for emotional intelligence, a vampire, because I would associate that with like psychic vampire or an energy vampire. I don't know that that's necessarily emotional intelligence, unless they're telling you that you need to be emotionally intelligent and in tune with things that are going on around you to make sure that you aren't getting sucked by them. The veil, the future, for we can never really see and know what is coming. It's always the veil. Now this one's interesting, the werewolf, exploring wildness. I like that one. I'm going to have a good time with these cards, interpreting these in readings. This is going to be fun. Winter, the sacredness of passing. And I'm presuming they mean passing through death, through that veil, because that is a sacred journey in and of itself. I'm going to save this one for last. I think I showed the mummy was change. And the last one is the earthly weaver of the worlds, the witch. I like that. The earthly weaver of the worlds. In other words, we're here and we serve in our function as witches to join or act as a conduit between the physical and spiritual world. I like that quite a bit. So this is a really, really neat deck that I am going to have a great time exploring. Again, the box is super duper sturdy, very nice, so I'll probably keep it in the box at least for a while, unless I come up with some really awesome bag for myself to keep them in. The book seems to be well bound and good quality, so no issues there. The cards, like I said, they're a little thin, but for shuffling and mixing, that's not bad. Being that they're a little slick, they kind of stick together. So maybe kind of rubbing them in a little bit of baby powder or something might relieve some of that. I think just with use, they'll shuffle pretty good and they'll get kind of, yeah. They're big size cards, good size cards, so they take up the whole hand. So it'll be good for a reading. One of the things that I don't like about cards like this that have the printed image on the back is it all faces one direction. So if you're reading cards, you know that you're not supposed to flip your cards like this. You're supposed to turn them like this. If you read reversals, I don't typically read reversals, but sometimes I do. Sometimes the image I get in the card is different because of the positioning. So it's going to be easy to tell if the card is in a reverse position before you turn it over. If that matters to you, I don't know that necessarily matters to me, because I think I'm going to interpret the card based on the other cards around it and my first impressions of the card anyway. since I read intuitively. But they shuffle pretty easy. They're a little slick, so they slide down. You may get a few jumpers. But overall, I think I'm going to really enjoy this deck. I'm going to take some good time to get to know this deck, and I might use it in some of the upcoming Samhain Sacrificial readings I'll be doing. I'm only doing 3 this year because I've been so busy and I just really haven't had time. But I am going to be posting those later this next week for Samhain. So, again, Halloween Oracle deck, Lifting the Veil Between the Worlds Every Night by Stacey DeMarco, published by Blue Angel Publishing. Awesome. Really looking forward to using this. I'm excited about this deck. I think you will really enjoy it too. So if you're looking for a really neat deck with some awesome artwork that's a little different than standard tarot, this would be the one I would go for. I really like the imagery here. So get out there, get it, check it out, and let me know what you think. Thanks so much and have a blessed day.